World of Warcraft Classic seems to be all of the rage at the moment, so I decided to see whether or not you can get an acceptable gaming experience with one of the cheapest gaming PCs you can buy on Amazon at the moment. If you're a semi-long-term viewer of this channel, you'll probably recognize this motherboard and the RAM from a build I did a while ago. Now, the reason that I could reuse those components in this kind of cheapest ever PC is because the motherboard and the RAM were some of the cheapest components available on Amazon. The only thing I had to do to push it down to that magic $250 barrier was drop in a cheaper CPU iGPU combination and replace the case with this, which is a kind of Thermaltake case of some description that happens to come with a power supply. So you open up the case and you're met with this. How the hell am I supposed to cable manage all of this crap? Oh, okay, I feel a bit stupid now. This is actually a power cable. This is actually a power cord, so, you know, that removes a little bit of my outrage, but still. Okay, it looks a lot more manageable now. Okay, well, my outrage is only semi-misplaced now. So what I've actually done is I've pre-cable managed a bit, right? So I have the 24-pin motherboard cable going out the back there, CPU cables up here, we've got all of the front I/O cables here, and then to kind of keep the mess to the minimum here, all of the cables that I don't need with this power supply, I kind of like tucked in under here because there's not like a basement to hide it in, and that kind of is a bit more out of the way. And I had to take out a hard drive cage to do that, but it's not a big deal because like I'm not going to put a hard drive in there anyway, and that looks a bit neater in my opinion than if it was just kind of like clumped over here. Now, I'm not 100% sure, but is that CPU cut out? Like, is that a joke? Is that some kind of like practical joke by Thermaltake? The motherboard goes over it, right? So you can't actually route cables through there. And there's no other space other than that is like, what? See, look at that. Like, what is the point of that cutout? I really don't get it. And here it is. This is the finished product. You probably would have seen some B-roll of the ketchup and mustard. Let's just do a quick breakdown of the components that we have in here. Now, first off, the CPU is an AMD Athlon 200GE. It's a very cheap CPU that comes with a cooler, quite hilariously. Tiny, but honestly the performance is the temperature performance is quite good. So this is the processor and the graphics card, and then we've got 8 gigs of Patriot Viper memory running at 2666 megahertz, and then we are using the legendary SSD by Tyrosus. It's 128 gig SSD, which is actually a pretty good SSD considering the fact that it's the cheapest SSD available on Amazon. Honestly, it doesn't look the best. It does look a little bit like you found it in a dustbin, but that doesn't really matter, honestly, because it's got like a side panel that doesn't have a window on it. So it's not like you can see any of the ketchup and mustard and like all the poverty cables and all of that. But what I do want to point out is that going from the case that I used in the previous build, which was the Thermaltake H17 and a separate power supply, which is a lower wattage than this one, but a much better power supply, you save like 19 Canadian dollars, and that's like, what, like 15 bucks? When I was finished with that PC, with that $370 build, and I sat back and had a look at that build, I was like, genuinely chuffed with it, right? I was really excited about that PC. Whereas this one, just because of the way that it doesn't look as nice as the other one, like, all of this stuff, like the motherboard doesn't quite fit in the case because it's an ATX case with an M-ATX motherboard in it. It just looks like a budget build, like a really budget build. Whereas just with the other case and the other power supply, it makes it look a lot better. I really think it's worth that extra money. In fact, I'd actually recommend going with the H18 instead of the H17 because it actually has a perforated front. So once you put in a graphics card, the heat doesn't become as unbearable as it does with the other system. But yeah, all in all, like it's purely functional anyway. It's 250 bucks. Like what more could you really expect? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna fire this beast up and we're gonna see what kind of World of Warcraft performance you can get for $250. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna try on setting level 3, which is apparently called Classic, and we're gonna see kind of how it performs. Okay, so I'm definitely gonna be undead. Let's try. Okay, that's just what more do you need? This is what I'm gonna be. Okay, so we're gonna call her Marge, and yeah, I think that's the perfect character. I have no idea what any of this does, so I'm just gonna accept, and we're gonna see what happens. Name is unavailable. Oh, I didn't think that was gonna be even a possibility. Let's try Marge with a 4 instead of an A. Can only contain letters. How about poop? That's almost definitely been taken. It contains mature language. What? So the moment that a game has like a profanity filter in it, I immediately want to see what the dirtiest word is that I can get away with for a name. Okay, so apparently excretion is fine, and I'm a level 1 warrior. So let's enter the world and see what happens. Okay. 100 FPS. This is actually pretty good. Death knell. Here's a very surprised man. Okay, but let's see. Okay, so we have about 100 frames per second with, okay, well, more like 90. So let's put it up to 4, like a real badass. But so now we're hitting a fairly stable 60 frames per second at 4 out of 10 setting, with the settings at 4 out of 10. And honestly, it just looks like World of Warcraft to me. Like, this is what the game always looked like. So this is actually pretty awesome. Like, I'm playing this game that's really popular at the moment with a PC that's 250 bucks, running 60 frames per second, not at the lowest graphical settings. That's pretty crazy. Oh, I think the dude's in here. Okay, so I'm guessing question mark is where I finish up. Oh, what's this thing? Can I kill it? Let me know in the comment section below if you'd actually like me to do some streaming of this game. Because then like next weekend, I can do like a stream of this. Let me know if anybody would be interested in that. It's actually gone up to like 100 FPS now. That's quite impressive. Okay, it's couch time. No, I'm obviously not going to sit like that. Now let me just briefly talk you through the gaming experience with this system. World of Warcraft runs really well. I don't know how well it's going to scale to like big 20 people raids in like high level dungeons. But there's quite a lot of headroom because if you're running the game at like the 3 graphical preset, you're getting about 100 frames per second. So there's definitely some headroom for like more action on screen. When moving over to Dota 2, the gaming experience is decent on the second lowest preset. It doesn't look as good when you move over to like CSGO though. The actual frame rates on paper seem okay, but the problem is that it stutters quite a lot. There are quite a few frame drops, which means that you often die because of your frame rate. And I know I sound like a noob trying to justify my deaths here, but it can become a bit frustrating. And any game kind of like Apex or PUBG or any kind of modern AAA title is kind of completely out of the question in my opinion, unless you drop it down to like 720p or below resolution, and at that point it's just going to look really bad. Now in conclusion, would I actually suggest anyone buy this $250 setup? In a word, no, I wouldn't really recommend that. I think you should go up to the $370 system, which has like a 3400G in it. You're going to get much better gaming performance, and when you eventually upgrade it to a graphics card, you're going to have a much better CPU CPU in there, so it's going to scale better with upgrades and things like that. And, you know, that case power supply combo is pretty nasty. I wouldn't really go for that. Anyway, if you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I've got a really exciting video coming up where I do some terrible things to a first generation Apple TV, so stick around for that. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter, and yeah, until the next video, bye bye.